Hi, welcome. On this video, again, I want to just follow up. I did a video on the long line about talking about the sequencing of that, how that sets up within the relational changing process, the parameters of that. Now, here's the point I want to make. Really important to understand that right out of the starting gate. Right out of the starting gate. If you're approaching training as anything except a relational changing process, okay, if you're just, again, and the majority of trainers do this, they launch into just, I want to build a picture, right? I want to, going to find a motivator, incentivize a dog to start to go into these positions through response, even though you're working within the framework of, say, the 4 quadrants, you're going to have problems. I want to be really clear about that. So regardless about these trainers that talk about certain things such as long lines, they're using remote collars, they're doing whatever, okay? That does not mean that they're not going to have issues with the motives of the dog not cleaning up. Continue to go sideways. Gapping, as I call it. Because again, it's about how change is defined, how it sets up relationally in and through the dog owner themselves. Okay, how the methodology does that. I want to be really clear about that. So the motivation, the motivator itself, is the dog coming into agreement with the process relationally, how that's defined through the methodology. Okay, so really important. Right now I'm actually spending a lot of time writing a technical trainer's guide to the system, so I'm getting really into the nuts and bolts of this. But but again, if you just get some of these concepts I'm putting out, you'll begin to get this. But understand, this is tough stuff for people who have done certain things for a certain period of time. But again, it's really there's depth to this system. It's really understanding. There's critical things, but there's basic core tenets. Because this system is a original source system. I want people to understand that. So you're not going to find trainers talking this way. But again, I understand the issue here with motives of dogs. But again, ask yourself the question, do you see any other trainers out there talking about motives and response? You're not. So, but again, I want to be really clear. So if I talk about a long line method, or if I talk about a certain, thing I'm doing, understand that it all comes through this proper sequencing to begin with. So even though you might see a dog moving around, or you might see a dog, a level of separation with a dog, well then, knowing that the proper sequence order has taken place relationally, okay, understanding how to put the motives of the dog to the test, how the sequencing follows the certain path, then looking at that, it's going to be solid. But if you watch some other trainer doing it and the dog's moving around, you're not going to know whether that's solid or not. Okay, I want you to understand. This is why on YouTube and stuff, you're not getting a full picture putting it to the test. But even putting it to the test, it has to be put to the test relationally. So, there's certain things that have to go down a certain way. I want people to understand that. This system is very intentional about how it trains dogs. But it has to follow a certain sequence. It cannot be half of this or half of that. It doesn't work that way. Okay, everything has meaning in it. I want people to understand that. It's like language. There's certain set points. There's when I'm doing training, there's a lot of stuff happening. This is why, again, I put on a trainer's course coming up in February. It's very much, it follows a certain core sequence. It's about getting a foundation. It has to be a solid foundation. Everything has to go down a certain way. Every movement has meaning in it. Okay, it's very intentional, this system. So anyway, just want to put that out there that when I'm talking about a certain method, or if a dog is off leash or whatever, it has to go down a certain way. That's why even on my videos, if you watch me doing it from day 1 to day 14, you'll see hovering around day 13, starting the level of influence taking hold with commands. Okay, it's starting to really getting solid. But here's the thing: understanding. See, I know the sequence, and I've been doing this for a long time. I don't have to. It's not for me to show people at day 5 or 6. Off leash. People may want to see that. I want to see that. It doesn't work that way. Okay, I understand how it plays out. Okay, I understand the end game here, and so I don't release the dog from that script until I know where I'm at. Okay, so I'm not interested in other people's ideas of things. I understand how the sequencing, how it works, how it sets up. So therefore, the integrity of the method itself holds true right through. Then when I get to the point I'm at, I already know it's solid. Okay, no one has to tell me anything. I know what it is. I know the modes of the dog. I know I've tested it at all points, and so there's a basic formula for success. This system's all about that, but it's about experience, about looking through a certain lens and understanding how all these dynamics play out. Whether it's using certain tools, this whole thing about the methodology, it has to right out of starting gate. It has to follow that order. If it doesn't follow that order, I question, okay, what I see right away. I already know, okay, there's a problem. But the problem with a lot of trainers is they're not going to see it or really know this kind of fork in the road goes. This is why I guarantee you, if there's a group, you're doing a group training class of like 30 people, these trainers are making assumptions. There could be 50% of that class, the modes of the dogs aren't going to clean up, and these trainers don't even know it. Okay, I want to be clear about that because they're looking at the surface of things. They're just looking at response a certain way. They're not looking at motives. They're not, how they put their methodology together. It's based off of just making assumptions. They're just launching right into these dogs, going into certain positions and such, incentivizing the dog. But they're not, testing whether or not the motives are cleaning up with these dogs. But if they understood it, they wouldn't be doing that in the first place. I want to be clear. They wouldn't be approaching training that way in the first place. So if you're approaching training a certain way in the first place, I assume that there's a lot of problems, because there's going to be. I want to be clear about it. There's going to be, period. So anyway, it's really important that again, to understand, if you really understand what training is, that you do things a certain way. Right at the starting gate, you don't mess around with this stuff, because it sets up problems. There's a spectrum. You can go right from balanced trainers right up to these so-called pure positive trainers, and I can lay out the risk levels for you right up through with in regards to the modes of these dogs. Dogs themselves, they have the same kind of relational need, but the levels can be different. Okay, even so, there's a formula here. It's just like putting a formula together. That's what it is. So it's very intentional. So anyway, if you have any questions about wanting to know about what training is, wanting to understand these things, contact me. Again, I have a trainer's course coming up in February. You're not going to find any other trainer's course out there like this. Okay, none. But it's going to give you a solid foundation to understand what training is, how to approach training right at the starting gate, how to make sure you're going to have a solid picture. That's what matters. To make sure unwanted behavior is going to diminish. Anyway, if you have any questions, contact me. I'll be more than happy to answer them. Thanks for watching.